Welcome everyone to this new episode of Let's Talk. I'm super excited to be here today by my own, and I'm going to deep dive into a topic that I think is very relevant on the podcast, which is the AI Engineer Playbook. And so I want to craft a guide to become a top 1% builder. And so what does that mean? I'm going to get into this in a second, but what you can expect from that episode is we're going to cover my formula of value creation, engineering formula, the ingredients for success, modes, biases, excellence for AI engineers, but also builders, your unique playbook. So meaning the way I can shine is different than the way you can shine. And like what I need to do, the inputs that I need to create are different from yours. You are the mode, as Gary Vee or Alex Hormozy would say. Then the long game term, the vibe coding versus vibe engineering, the mentors, action plans, tools, what to learn, build versus learn, share and connect. So all of those are like core thematics that we're going to deep dive. Let's jump right into it. I just want to start by sharing my screen, and I created a few slides that we can look at. I will jump right into the value formula. Why does it matter in the first place? Because if you want to grow your career and if you want to become more valuable, then you need to know what you're optimizing for and you need to know what people are expecting from you. This formula is very easy. There is the size of the problems that you can solve. There is the time saved when you solve those problems. And then there is the revenue created for the company or your company. And this one is straightforward. If you can tackle bigger problems, for example, it's different to fill tickets in a board, different than leading a team of 10 people or 100 people, which is different from building a team of 10 people or 100 people. So all of these are skill sets, and the more skilled and experienced you become, the bigger the problems you can solve without anyone telling you how, which is ideally what you want. And then saving time compounds and generating revenue also. And those are like what anyone could expect from you, your clients, your coworkers, etc. Then you move to the engineering formula. Anytime when you're building something, what you need to optimize for is you want to minimize human in the loop and engineering, meaning like the overall efforts of building the thing, while maximizing the learnings, the time saved, and the revenue created. So basically, you want to get the most out of minimum efforts, to be strategic about next steps and incrementally move in the right direction. To be successful and building something successful, I see two simple ingredients: the problem that you're solving and how you're actually solving it. And in the how you're solving it, I think that a lot of people building is where they care the most about these kind of things, which is the actual solution in itself, the tech stack, the system around it, how it works, how the query performs. So the code base, the quality of the code, the best practices of software engineering, etc. And then the second thing is the user experience, because we can have the best system in the world. If we don't have the right experience for the user, we're not solving the problem. If we're not solving the right problem, then it doesn't matter the user experience or like the quality of the system. And if we don't have the quality of the system, we basically have a vibe coded app, and maybe we can end up generating some revenue, but we will have a very hard time scaling the solution without the proper foundations. Because let's remind ourselves that any great product requires a ton of iteration, speaking with clients, understanding edge cases. There is recently the forward deployed engineer concept that is applied across Palantir, Invisible, but I would even say that OpenAI and Anthropic are doing so. And it's basically you have a product and you have a client that is a corporate or enterprise, and you have engineers working in between where the product doesn't reach yet the level of customization that the client needs. And so this is basically forward deployed engineers. But I think that you want to apply this mindset of creating this bridge. And when you're building any kind of solution, you want to have the right problem, the right user experience, and the right system. Just like there is tech debt and like there is management debt, there is user experience debt, there is a problem solving debt. So all of those components are very interesting. Okay, moving forward, I will be brief on that one, but I really recommend to read The 7 Powers, and there is a very cool YC Litecoin video about it that I would also recommend. It's basically about defensiveness and creating moat around a strategy of building a business. So recommended the book, and this video refreshes the book with like 2025 companies in the AI era, if I may say. The first mode, speed, crossed. Now that we understand the value of problem solving, time saved, revenue created, and the engineering formula, we can go to reverse engineering excellence. And so here I have a few thoughts. The first one is, now that you know your value and what to optimize for, you start understanding that building things, you actually need speed and controlled chaos. What do I mean by controlled chaos? I mean, you need to be moving fast and get the learnings and the revenue in, as well as a clean code base and clean systems. You don't want to use lovable and build things that won't be scaling, but do you need to scale in the first place? So I think that what you need to think about now that you have this framework of value, which we can go back, when you talk about excellence of an AI engineer or a builder, you need to be able to generate as much revenue as possible, recurring revenue increasing, meaning that you're building a healthy business. Because if you're generating a lot of revenue or you have very interesting traction metrics or engagement metrics, let's take engagements, for example. Your product is doing very well. There are more users joining, but no one is paying. So here you have a problem of being actually worth enough for your customers so that they give you money. And so you need to rethink the direction. On some other cases, you're solving the right problem, but very low engagements, and you have clients churning from your solution. It means that you're not solving properly the solution. So I want to keep that in mind as a compass, because it is very important when you reverse engineer excellence to be thinking not only from a technical perspective, but other people's around me and what are we thriving for? What is our common goal? And because you know the common goal and the different hats that people have, for example, CMO, the sales, the engineers, then you can understand better how they think and you can align better your communication towards that common mission that everyone agreed upon joining the company. So this is an extension, the bias lens. Every time you talk to someone, let's say you're an AI engineer, and you talk to the CEO or the CMO or the head of sales, then they will see the company through different lenses. They might see it more from a marketing perspective, a sales perspective, because let's remind ourselves that the more time we spend around something, the more we see everything across the patterns and learnings that we've had. So it's a good reminder to be thinking about, okay, maybe I'm overthinking this through the systems and the technology, but we need to take a step back and understand what are we solving for in the first place, or what is our common metric that makes everyone wins. Those kind of reflections sets you apart because you can become a very powerful ally to all your teammates, members, teams, etc. Because you can understand how they can win, you can help them win, and they can help you win in return too. Learn when to build fast versus learn deeply. This is an interesting one that I'm going to comment. So far, we've reviewed the different approaches of what great looks like. And now we understand that we have bias. We need to align communication. So what is, for me, an excellent builder, founder, AI engineer? I think it's someone excellent technically, meaning building very solid systems that delivers on what they need, that create delightful experience for the users. But it's also someone that builds extremely fast as possible. And of course, controlled. We're not talking about vibe coding here, but someone that can build excellent code bases and software and extremely fast is extremely competitive. Then understanding business, I think, is very important because I can build very fast and excellent solutions, but if they are not saleable or if they're not solving the right problems, then it's not worth it. Business, I would say that it has other hats. For example, hiring, creating a growth plan, a marketing plan. I think that there are so many pieces of a business that are extremely interesting that you can leverage when building solutions and that are important for you to understand so that you can improve your communication with other people. And the end outcome of that is you making more money or creating more value, etc. You want also someone that is very good at thinking from a user perspective and the user persona or the ideal customer profile, understanding how the users or clients think, what are their use cases, edge cases, etc. is extremely useful. Then the communication is very important. I put it with great collaborator because someone who can communicate efficiently moves the needle because we can identify problems, issues, potential wins better, and we can also have better ideas as a group. And of course, the collaboration side is extremely important. Someone who does very well in a team is, I think, what I would define as an excellent AI engineer or builder or founder. Okay, so the unique playbook. What do I mean by that? I think that we're at a good stage of these slides and the ideas for me to explain something that I think is very relevant and important, which is when you define your path to the top 1%, if that is even of interest to you, that's another topic. But I think that there is no routine of anyone else that will achieve and get you what you want. And what do I mean by that? I think that being curious about what to learn and learning it and building things and developing my own curiosity is something that is very hard to be copied. As a matter of fact, I would even say that it's impossible to copy that. This is something that is worth thinking about. What is your winning plan like? Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee, all these very interesting people have said it multiple times, but you are your moat, you are your niche. And so what would more of you looks like? Meaning, what are you curious about? What are you intrigued about? What haven't you tried that you're curious to try? The more you do you, the better you will be winning in the long term because you can do the things that you need to get basically your problem solved, time saved, revenue created, as well as the engineering formula. You can improve those by doing what you actually need to do for yourself. And that applies personally and professionally. Moving on. This is a long-term game, so I won't spend too much time on that idea. But what feels like play to you feels like work to others. This is a famous quote. Basically, the idea here is what are the things that I want to do more of and the things that I want to do less of, and what do I actually want in the long term? And so making sure to be very consistent every day, every week with learning and improving, etc. I think that this is a perfect time for me to share my growth pillars, personal pillars. This is very me, but build your own. Personally, I maximize for growth, then maximize for impact, meaning how much value am I generating, and then maximizing wealth for myself, for my loved ones, etc. And so this is a useful framework for you to take decisions professionally or navigate reality. So the modern AI engineer, we have a few slides left. And so I think that we're going to cover right now the modern AI engineer, some things that I think of a lot. So modern AI engineer, practice, share, connect, tech stack mindset. You have that personal pillars framework. Now I want to talk a bit about the AI engineers. Do not vibe code. Don't get me wrong. You can go and vibe code and use different solutions to create interesting POCs and show it to clients and have systems, especially if you're building multiple AI companies. You get a better understanding of what people would pay for. That said, you want to be vibe engineering at least. So I think that there is this article from Simon Wilson's weblog. So I think that this article is extremely self-explanatory. The more senior you are, the more understanding you have of the systems and your infra and your backend, your front end, and where you want to take the product and what you want to build, etc. The difference between vibe code and vibe engineering is mainly you use the same tools. I mean, not Lovable or V0 or others, but you will use Cloud Code, Codex, Google CLI, and you will efficiently create systems that deliver great code that follows the current repo structure. Basically, you build clean solutions, but extremely fast. I've heard people in the past complaining about vibe coding and the tool doing bad things, such as deleting an entire database. Those are just bad use of the tools and not the tool being bad. And so basically, you want to be thinking of how much new tools can I try? How much new processes can I try? The learning curve around using those tools. But what if you were able to create clean apps in 3 hours? I don't know, like 5 end-to-end apps in 3 hours that you can sell for whatever. I think that you're in a way better place than if you would have to create those for way bigger amount of time. My point being that your building skills and what you can build in an amount of time is becoming a commodity. And with the right systems, you can be really empowered to create way more than ever before. And so it is on to you as an AI engineer to create the systems that supercharge you and those guardrails and best practices of code reviews and the way you work with Cloud Code or Codex and the way you have accountability of code and observability in production of your systems. All of that is on you, not on any tool. And there are people out there who are extremely efficient at that and who are getting the most out of it. So the next time you hear someone complaining or talking about one of these solutions, just use what works for you and try to improve the way you use it over and over again, learning from other people on YouTube. I really recommend YouTube tutorials of Codex and Cloud Code of how can you get end-to-end system and then see how can you apply that to your personal projects or in your job. And so you want to balance that speed and quality and deep dive. Basically, you want to be thinking of, right now I'm in builder mode, so I need to go as fast as possible. This is my output because this will bring us either learning or revenue or both. And at other moments, as an AI engineer, you want to deep dive into new solutions, products, testing tools, setting up a system. For example, you want to set up a system for a project that you're working on with Opic as a solution to build better the systems and have more observability in how they work. And maybe you want to deploy that in production or some kind of, Sentry for doing more monitoring in production. So basically you have that idea. Well, go play with it and take your time, read the documentation. But then when you're in builder mode, go as fast as possible while maintaining control and chaos. So I think that those are like the core ideas around the modern AI engineer. Building is becoming more of, I would say, a commodity. And so you want to be very mindful about when are you learning and when are you moving fast so that you generate as much value as possible. So just a few more thoughts. Building in public, sharing wins, joining communities, talking to people online that care about the same things are extremely interesting. And on the mentor side, I think that finding a mentor is awesome, but I believe that to have a mentor, you need to know what you want. And then you need to have someone that has that and that successfully taught that in the past to other people that also got it. I think that that's the perfect mentor, of course. All of these are like, if life is perfect, but life is never perfect. And the entire point of this is, how do I move towards that direction? And what can I do on a weekly basis that helps me become better and better and working on the skills that I actually care? So yeah, on that last point, I think this is very important. We don't have to get all of those at first, but we can open a new repository on GitHub and start working on an ID and then growing that ID consistently through weeks, or maybe dropping that ID, working on something else, being super curious, reading the books, trying to understand the concepts that I need to go to the next level are, I believe, what makes you win and join the top 1% at some point. Now we have all of that. Tech stack mindsets. You can use Claude, Cursor, AMP, Codex, which are like the most recent one. Personally, I'm currently using Claude Code and Cursor. I really want to try more of AMP. I haven't tried it yet, but I heard amazing thing. I heard an episode on the Latent Space podcast, and it was very fun. And then Codex, it's the current one that everyone's using, I would say. So be curious, play with solutions, create accounts, put some credits in it, and build cool things and have fun doing so. Don't get attached to the tech. Now you have the opportunity to have these amazing AI companions that can help you learn any skills you need. So really be curious and try to build things that you care about and increase your problem solving and value creation skills, which are the most valuable skills that you can develop, I would say. Awesome. So I think that we've almost covered everything. Just to wrap up all those thoughts and then go through like a few documents. I think that one way to do that is that you have monthly and weekly goals for yourselves, professionally and personally. Anyone has their different systems. I won't get too much into that. There are many videos talking about this. I do think that on Sunday or on Mondays, you can create a list of what you want for these weeks that are aligned to your bigger goals. And then you make sure that you do your best to deliver on them. And the week after, you iterate and you adjust based on what we're missing the past week. I think something that people get wrong is that they're overly attached to the plan and not necessarily caring so much about the iteration. And I think that the real power here is how are you able to know yourself better, know your capacity better, always pushing yourself and improving every week. So you can have like a plan, 10-year goal, 5 years goal, 2 years goals. But at the end of the day, you need to be actively working on specific things daily and weekly. And so you need to make sure that you have a core system around that. Okay, so I think that this blueprint covers it all. Those are core concepts that I really apply for myself. So just build, improve every loop, I think is the last quote that I would mention. Here I have a few documentations. Check the links in the description. The search for goals, you will have different frameworks that I believe in that talk about creating products and iterating on them. Check the 7 powers. This article is very good about vibe engineering. I think that it sets the pace to how you should be building. If you hear anyone saying that we should not learn to code in 2025, this is the stupidest thing that someone can say. And I don't judge anyone saying that. It's just my personal opinion. I'm happy to explain more on that. Then some podcast, Cheeky Pint is awesome. They have amazing entrepreneurs, leaders, very cool to watch. Latent Space is my personal favorite. Swix and Alicia are doing an outstanding job talking with the best people in the world, building very, very cool things. So definitely recommend it. Whites and Biases. So this one, I really like it. I think that on the other platforms, it's called Gradient Descent. It's with Lucas Stewart. And so excellent podcast about people building with AI ML solutions. Y Combinator, of course, especially Litecoin. You have the 7 powers video, I believe, here that you will really like. Choose Substack that I think you will benefit from as an AI engineer. You might know him already. Paul Houston, he has the Decoding AI newsletter and all his socials. So review his work and his book. It's amazing. And The Neural Maze by Miguel Otero. Very also interesting tutorials and concepts. And I think that they are at the state of the art of what tools to use, how to implement them, what does production looks like, all these kind of cool things. Topics that when we nerd about these solutions, those are the right place to be hanging out. I will create also an entire list of YouTube channels and books that I find very interesting, not necessarily only focused on an AI engineer. I think that we've covered everything that I wanted to review today. So I hope that this was fun. I would love to iterate on all those ideas in next episodes. I wish you to have an amazing day. Ciao.